All right, so thank you to everyone for tuning in to what is the 10th event, 10th, I don't know, issue? Yeah, 10th event in the David Has Zoom Pro for a few months reading series, where a few months apparently means 12 plus months. Yeah, we started almost a year ago, 2 days shy of our first reading. And I will say our, even though I'm referring to myself in the royal way. We have 4 incredible readers tonight. We have C.T. Salazar, Allie Hoback, Anthony Cappo, and Alina Stefanescu. Reading in that order. So yeah, I want to thank all of my readers for agreeing to share part of their Thursday night with us. And yeah, we will go ahead and get started and start with the amazing poetry from C.T. Salazar, who is a Latinx poet and librarian from Mississippi. His debut collection, like Vanna White here. Headless John the Baptist Hitchhiking was named a 2023 finalist for the Theodore Redke Memorial Award. His poems have most recently appeared in West Branch, Gulf Coast, Denver Quarterly Review, Cincinnati Review, and elsewhere.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Cool to be here. This is like the coolest way to spend a Thursday evening. So yeah. And I'm just going to read one from Headless John the Baptist Hitchhiking. So this is When the Crows Came. I didn't hate them. They needed to roost, and I needed a purple deep enough to convince the neighborhood boys of my skin's milkiness. I don't mind seeing strands of my hair in their nests, pages of scripture I've torn out, strips of silver chocolate wrappers, stray threads from old sweaters. They take it all, curious gods. The young ones chirp. Every morning my body's outlined in feathers, the whole bed dappled dark as a beginning. I don't know what to say, so I say thank you. The crows don't know what to say, so they don't speak. They just keep finding parts of me to make useful. I thank them for that too. And I think I'm just gonna read like some newer stuff as well, if that's okay. And this is one that I haven't read anywhere yet. So this is the first time. And the title is after a line that I love of Monica de la Torre from her poem, How to Look at Mexican Highways. So this is called Desire is a Federacy of blood, of wilting or willpower, get up, whippoorwills wanting like pulling a sword from deep in a bloomed lily. In any other life would this have been possible? I mean, you leaping like the stag about to turn into 100 sparrows, me holding on to you in case the fear alone keeps me from becoming sparrows. It didn't come with instructions, the sword I mean. The police haven't killed anyone in a while is something you'd say only if you have peace of mind, which is to say, I don't. I'm terrified of the God my mother asked to protect me. What if I owe him? Get up. When they unearth us, will the fear of debt be legible on our bones? I'm thankful for those moments I wake up before you. If the police kill me, I hope the last thing I accomplished is making your coffee because I like how my hands feel that early in the morning. Incapable of harm, miming tender acts of weather instead of weaponization, like a lightning-struck senator. The closest I've come to participating in faith, get up, was believing that lightning strike would help my neighbors. Sunrise, sunflower, sunset, this is a day. If it looks like all the ones before carrying us God knows where, at least the dogwoods will white and pink me perfect. Like arrows, some men only really see what they're about to kill. Leap high, my love. I know there's not enough guilt in Ecclesiastes to demand the hungry attempt grace in their hunger. And what would a king, blood-hemmed and sharp-sworded, know about starving, about wanting? Get up. I've come with a petition no one wants to sign, like more swords and lilies. Thunderstorms in every quiet dream. You'll have to wake up just to wring your hair out, full of the sweet rain smell. I hope you'll forgive me if I say I made a fool of myself today. Inevitably, I'll say the same thing tomorrow. And this one's called Chapel of My God. My God is out this late every night. My God is naming all the fireflies after jurors that helped convict innocent people. Rosalind, Bruce, yes, some of them feel awful about it. When I was born, my God held a watch to my ear and said, "This sound governs the whole world." But I've been hoping someone could replace it with something less demanding. In place of my cousins, I keep seeing a pile of red clay bricks. Listen, my God is nestled deep in a spiral conch, shooing away curious hermit crabs. My God only likes handcuffs when they're warm from his beloved's wrist. My God wishes all fences were electric. Eels, too. My God explains that we lost heaven when we lost all the whales. My God sounds like a barn when he sleeps. No star is too distant, and no war is loud enough to drown it out. My God says the animal made in his likeness was the raccoon. My God calls his children roadkill. Come, the road is long and littered with our parents. My God is guilty of propeller malfunctions at cruising altitude. My God is guilty, and there's enough fireflies to make it so. And the last one I'll read is from a series written. So I live in the Mississippi Delta, and these are just a little series of sonnets that have been written kind of about living here, I guess. So this is Mule Sonnet number 10. I raised my hands. The woods were arresting. You understand what it's like. On the creek's behalf, I called my legislatures, suspicious of its water being exploited to wash the blood out of the cradles. May their hearts secede in peace among the ivy, where the point of it all is light on top, dark under, keep it hid. Finally, they perfected the grenade, designed to be the weight of a baseball, and I was a natural. Boyhood gave me hands. Death said there'll be parentheses in its favorite sentence. Thank you.
I am muted and I just kept talking to everybody. I am so sorry. I'm a little rusty. All right. It's been a while since the last one, a couple of weeks. But thank you so much, CD. Getting us started the proper way there. As I was saying to nobody who could hear me, I'm a sucker for anaphora poems. So the My God one, I love that so very much. All right. I will be more professional going forward. Not really. Our next reader, Allie Hoback, is a poet from Southwest Virginia. She earned her MFA in creative writing from Syracuse University, as well as her BA in English from Virginia Commonwealth University. She has held editorial positions at several literary magazines, including Blackbird, Salt Hill Journal, and Quarterly West. Her poetry has appeared in New Ohio Review, Hobart, The Boiler, and elsewhere. She lives and teaches writing in Central New York.
That's me. Thank you, David, for introducing me and putting this together. And thanks to all the other poets that I'm reading with tonight. I'm going to start with an older one, probably like the oldest poem I've written that I still like. But when I was deciding what I wanted to read, I realized I'd never read this poem before. So I thought that would be a good one to start with. And it's the first poem that I wrote after living in Southwest Colorado for a year, and I wrote a lot of poems about that time of my life. This is called Lahara, a Desert Pastoral. I herd sheep with Mercury's mother in the morning and shovel shit in the evening. I want to tell her about the time I snuck out at 17, drove up Roanoke Mountain to walk the only trail I knew. I took baby steps, stared at my feet until I couldn't stand to make myself move anymore. She tells me how she bottle fed 3 lambs through winter, how one lost its back legs to frostbite and Mercury put it down, slit its throat or snapped its neck, or drove half an hour on a desert road and found a rock to bash its skull. I don't know how he did it. I want to tell her Mercury is the kind of man I think about when the AC is broken. I sweat and dream of dusty highways and busted taillights, the kind of man who brands an Appaloosa on its side before writing it. Someone I'd let rough me up inside, sweat dripping from my back as I watch the smoke roll from the burn and bow my head like an animal sways, grits his teeth and takes it. Right, next one I'm going to read is called Sonnets Full of Secrets. It's a sonnet full of secrets. I broke the vase. I daydream about moving states and telling no one. The coyotes in my dream must have meant something. I know no government secrets. I never loved him, probably. The best way to become a god is to spend a night with wax falling from a candle. The best way to reinvent yourself is to realize there's no such thing. I would have rather been a singer. The road is sacrament. I am too good a liar, so I say. It is usual to miss the air on your bare face. It is no secret I miss. I keep my mind on bluffs and pyres. I shattered the windshield, then myself. I don't see what that has to do with it. This next one is called It's Just How I Feel. What I'd give for car windows down, soon though. Fall isn't quite here, but the maples drop their leaves from disease. Google said it's more like a cold for them though, clears up on its own. September, warm enough to swim, but cool enough for a light sweater. Wet hair by the campfire, and when your hair gets wet again the next day, still the smell of wood smoke. Washing your lover's shirt, but his smell comes through, even though there's lavender in the detergent. Waking up with a hickey and laughing, but hiding it under a turtleneck. You're older now, and it's private. The wind with windows down, tangling my hair. Not everything in the world is trying to make me cry. But when I brush it out in the mirror, I tear up and wince at each snarl. Because it hurts. Why else? My next one is called Fragment with Cadillac. And if you're anything like me, I have like an obsession with the cars, like this deep connection with every car that I've ever owned. And this is it's about a car, kind of. I screeched all over the valley, and that condemned 91 Cadillac some other girl must drive now. We took it to South Fork that first summer to see a cover band play at an RV park. No heat, no radio. I learned to make do. Everything happened. Flat tire, out of gas, kiss in a parking lot after the bar went dark, gain and loss of a god, leaked oil, shared joints, light hitting the rearview mirror making gold, driver's side door frozen shut, dripped gasoline. Car key to the side of my heart. Door kicked shut with my booted foot. Dirt road dust in a veil behind me. Then thin air. I'm going to read a couple of love poems. This next poem is probably like the happiest poem I've ever written. And it's called Treat. To kiss and not care if the French toast burns, while you push me up against the counter like I should be. To kiss and care just a little if the pumpkin pie burns. It's dear crust which you made with chilled butter. To kiss and know you're the only one I've ever called baby and didn't say it as a joke. To whisper in the daylight of your so windowed house and giggle at the May breeze, warm as April, kissing us too. To whisper about the sea 300 miles away and its weird fish, if it might work for us to live there where the rock and the salt water meet. To whisper something for you like, baby, you're covered in flour and nutmeg, come here and let me smell you. This one's called pomelo. And if you've never had a pomelo before, it's a citrus fruit like a grapefruit, but they're in season in the Northern Hemisphere in the winter. When it was 6 degrees below freezing, we sat in the kitchen with just the oven hood's light and shared a pomelo. It was too cold to remove our hats. We couldn't afford to crank the heat, and even if we could, the apartment's old windows would still let the ice air in. We were in love and let the faucets drip. We didn't say a word, just peeled at the skin of our pomelo halves with delicate fingers. Later, under all the blankets, we sucked the phantom juices from each other's hands. And this next one is a sonnet. It's called Swim Sonnet, Maine, September. A lot of these are sonnets. I was on a real sonnet kick after a forms class with Bruce Smith. But it produced, I think, some of my best work. So thanks, Bruce. Everyone we saw on Sand Beach wore their puffer jackets, knit hats, socks, and shoes. But I thought we still needed water on our skin. Signs in the empty changing stalls warned of hypothermia in August, but we stripped. The sand was cold. We ran. We raced like children. You and your red trunks plunged into the wave in front of me. It smelled of salt and permanence. I felt watched and wanted to watch us. The current had a bite to it, and we pulled seaweed from my hair for days. We welcomed the chill. The ocean dripped from us as we walked back to your car. We grinned and watched the fog build on the windshield. This one's called Community Garden Night. It's about the restorative powers of community garden nights. Roses and raspberries are related, is what Claudia tells me right before she clues me in that I'm standing in a row of raspberry bushes, low and picked clean of their berries. We weed and sometimes harvest the late summer and early fall potatoes and tomatoes and tomatillos. I wrapped my fingers around the deflated ball leaves that encase the fruit. It feels like a child's origami balloon. I can never tell when tomatillos are ripe, but Claudia says they'll be ready when they look so full they're about to split. The leaves will peel away. I can take care of myself here in a small way. When we dig with our hands to loosen carrots and guess at which ones are ready to come out, she pulls the first one, long and wiry with fibers, and points it at my nose and says, "Try it." I twist my face at all the dirt and bite, softer than store carrots and gritty. We sit there and share the first, slowly, with our stiff knees all ground soaked. And I'm going to read two more. This next one is it's a new one. It's a new one. So let me know. It's called Self-Portrait as Disco Cowboy. Look at me now in my bedazzled fringe jacket. I'm tearing up the empty dive bar. I'm holding the mic and stretching the cord out and away from my hip like I'm Freddie Mercury or some shit. The worn out knees of my jeans are the color of mud. Baby's a star here at $4 well and karaoke night, so long as I don't lose my keys again. And yeah, the tips of my red cowboy boots are perfectly pointed, could pierce anyone with threats of the size of this town. No, Disco Cowboy's not going to wake up in a ditch tomorrow or in the back seat of my car in the bar lot with these boots on. I'm going to sing my broken Western heart out, voice echoing off all the sticky surfaces. I'm going to sing until I feel right, then go on home alone. And this last one is called Sonnet Full of Endings. The magic wasn't real and the girl is dead. Louise drives the car over the edge of the Grand Canyon. Whatever it was I said, I wish it was never talk to me again. Howie wins and gets his head blown off. The hero dies, the kingdom falls, the mystery remains unsolved. The world fries and roaches reign. Hands search for each other in the darkness. The radiator gurgles out its heat. Romeo drinks the poison and Juliet, well, you know. The gang says goodbye and go their separate ways. There were talks of a sequel. Shame. I go west because what else is there to do? I come back because what else is there to do? Thank you.
Thank you, Allie. I think we can all agree that Disco Cowboy is definitely a winner. And we should all tell Bruce thank you for getting you into sonnets. Okay, our next reader, Anthony Cappo, is the author of When You're Deep in a Thing, recently released from Four Way Books, and the chapbook My Bedside Radio. His poems and other writings have appeared in Thrush, Poetry Journal, Prelude, The Rumpus, The Boiler, and other publications. Anthony received his MFA in creative writing from Sarah Lawrence College. He grew up in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and now lives in New York City. His work can be found at anthonycappo.com.
Thanks, David. Thank you. And thanks to CT and Allie and Alina. This is great. I'm really enjoying this. And I love it that Allie's poem was about Disco Cowboy, because my first poem is about disco too. And as a matter of fact, it's called Saturday Night Fever. My mother couldn't afford to buy me a leather jacket, but my sister's cop boyfriend gave me a John Travolta haircut. His training: when someone does something to this body, I pay attention. He took me hunting, shooting at deer illegally from a moving car. I cried when they broke up. He taught me how to drink, how to slam the door when you walk in a room to show you're badass. I was a strobe, my dad gone, pulsing in the dark. Teachers said I'd changed. It's easy to be cruel with a tough guy haircut and gold rope chain. My sister's disco throbbing on the lunchroom jukebox. I'd sit with the greasers, but minutes would pass in silence, slinked away, or just waited for the bell. I always thought it was about the music, but it wasn't. I want to thank David. David and I, we met about, it's almost 14 years now. It was January 2009 at US Poets in Mexico, which was the first serious poetry workshop I ever did. And David was great. We became fast friends and had a really great time. And Monica De La Torre, CT, as a matter of fact, was one of the teachers there. And she was great too. Anyway, so it's really great to be reading here. This next poem, I just checked recently, and I think my first draft of this poem was about 10 years ago. And I remember thinking at the time, like, boy, this poem is going to have a really short shelf life because the person I'm writing about is really old and like, it's just not going to be around. The whole conceit of the poem is going to be thrown out. 10 years later, though, he is still with us, and he is one of our most prominent war criminals. This poem is called "Today I Saw Henry Kissinger on the Subway." Today I saw Henry Kissinger on the subway, plotting to bomb Cambodia, typing coordinates on his iPad, Khmer scurrying in the arc light, carving a path for Pinochet, cabling Mao, giving Brezhnev the slip, scribbling a defense of Nixon, TV makeup on gray statesman face. Or maybe it wasn't Kissinger, just another owlish old man dreaming of when the world was his briefcase, green, the color of everything. It's actually true. I did see a guy in the subway and I thought for a second, God, that's Henry Kissinger. And then I was like, no, that's not Henry Kissinger, but wouldn't that be cool if it was? Next, I'm going to read the title poem. It's called "When You're Deep in a Thing." When you're deep in a thing and that thing has an anvil that sinks in your chest and squeezes your thoughts down trapdoor corridors, when a walk in the street is a gauntlet of faces, the only song a suite of dirges. You visit the falls and think not of their beauty, but their promise to sweep you away. Lean over a railing at the Niagara River and imagine joining its rush as it tumbles toward the edge, or back in the city, drive over a bridge, see a pedestrian walkway and wonder if there's a ledge below to stop a leap, and you hope for future reference, there isn't. When you're deep in a thing, it's good to have people who love you, faces in your heart you wouldn't want to see shattered. So there's a section in the book of ekphrastic poems based on the photographs of the Hungarian photographer André Kertész. So I'm going to read a couple of those. First one, And I kept the titles of the poems, but sometimes they relate to the photograph. Other times I kind of go off on tangents. The first one I'm going to read is called Rainy Day Tokyo, 1968. Walk between the lines, follow a sign and be ghost herded with a will all your own. Hoist your umbrella like a shield. It will protect you from everything but the streams shooting out of your own body. And next one I'm going to read from the Cortez poems. It's called Empire State Building, New York, 1967. Empire down, reflected in sidewalk puddle. Fallen spires tip sticks the pavement like a syringe. Debris on the ground circles like biplanes. Tenements, barred windows obscure the base. Blackout, Son of Sam, still to come. Studio 54, I want to be sedated. So now, this is another poem in the book. It's a little bit longer, and the guy who is in the very first poem I read is back in this poem. It's called The Great Outdoors. The Great Outdoors. The first time I thought of shooting a man, I was hunting with my sister's boyfriend, Brian. A long day, we'd started when it was dark. By 6 a.m., beer in hand, we were off. I was 14. Driving an empty highway, Brian leaned out the window with his shotgun, looking for early feeding deer, but didn't see any. We got to the woods and began walking. He gave me a starter rifle, one of his old guns slung across my chest. Brian meant well, impressed my sister, yes, but took an interest in me. My dad had just left, my life a weather vane, spinning directionless. But the forest seemed empty. Maybe we were loud, beginners, bad luck. No deer, no other animals. Disappointed, I saw some birds in a tree. Didn't come all this way not to shoot anything, so I aimed and fired into the branches. The birds flapped away. My first shot, not even close. Brian laughed. You'll never get an easier target than that. The hunt became an hours-long slog. Dispirited, lagging behind, my weariness brought myself back to me. I wasn't the hardened hunter this gun promised. I wanted to be warm at home with my mom, soft, crumbling at first sign of trouble. Striding far ahead, Brian had discovered the real me. I could feel it in his smirk. I wanted to off this tormentor, this dark mirror, send him gurgling, staggering, fill him with 1,000 holes like Bruce Naumann's fishes. But I didn't. Kept walking, head down, a rabbit without spring. I thought I'd find a new me, granite, alabaster, steel, but just the usual. No alchemy, no magic, no hero's journey through dark wood. We made it back to the car and drove home. Through the windshield, the setting sun shone on me like a spotlight. The next poem I'm going to read, I was sitting in a bar with a friend of mine, and she was talking about people in her life, and she said, they're just married to their suffering. And I thought to myself, wow, what a great expression, what a great phrase. So this poem was born out of that. It's called My Wedding Day, for Sophia Starmack, my friend who I had the conversation with. I couldn't find a mate, so I got down on one knee for my suffering. My bride rode in on a ragged horse, her slack-jaw cousins sagging the reins, her dress weathered, stitched in onyx and pomegranate seeds. My sullen queen of spades. The hall glowed in low candlelight. The priest whispered some words, and it was done. They tried to lift my bride to dance, but the burden too heavy. The band played dirges and Nick Drake. Did we dance the hokey pokey? Yes, we did. The alley cat and other line dances. My mom clapped with joy. The bride grimaced. And now she's the first breath I feel every morning. Entwined arms, reminder of our bond. We sway together under the darkest of branches, the murkiest of waters. And when the clock's rattling chimes demand we kiss, we do. Read a couple of short poems. This one's called Dissociation Blues. When I was a kid, I could jump my skin as easily as a ghost skips over a pond, leap my mind into some other's eyes, and voila, the world through them. Give the slip to the pale cadaver tied to my wrist, heavy guy for a boy to be dragging around. Another's head's a safe place to see the world, but can't stay. Back to mine, where it was me, then not me, then whoever else cared to sidle in. This poem is called Tiny Life. It is from my adventures in online dating. Tiny Life. Message me if you have a big life, her profile says. Well, that's great, but I'm tired of trying to live a big life. I want a tiny life, a quiet, wake up and walk in the park life. Not clenching my teeth in the dark life, some peace, not self-flagellation, a connection with someone would be nice life. And I'm gonna read one more poem, and I want to thank David once again and all the readers. This has been tremendous, and thanks for listening. This poem is called Postparting. It's still morning and I've texted 3 exes, resurrected my dating profile, and gathered all my energy to even think about leaving my apartment. I make it to the park to read, to think, but people near me just blather on their phones. I want to scream like Bacon's popes, babble of voices, none speaking to me. I thought I was over this solitary man shit, but here I go again on my own. A bulldog rests on the thighs of its owner and girlfriend in matching Middlebury sweatshirts. I'd like to find them cute, but all I feel is annoyed. Is it their college spirit, glowy togetherness? Whatever. Strangers come up to them and pet the dog. It's the dog's 3rd birthday. Happy birthday, bulldog. Hey, bulldog. Some kind of happiness is measured out in currency I don't possess. I walk down Hudson Street, couples smiling, having brunch on plain air, all dewy, blah, blah. I know the look. I've had it. But now it's as ancient as an AM radio song I heard on the bus in grade school. I keep myself busy, farmer's market, hardware store, pharmacy, back to my place with my bags, my foraging. Tail down, I settle in, unpack my stuff. Wind blows through the open window, chill settles everywhere like a resort town in autumn. Stores, restaurants close, lake gets colder, sprouts, icy fingers. Deep in its frozen dark, I've welcomed the stillness, respite from an other's force. But the lake doesn't get that cold anymore, and neither do I. I'll shiver, tempt myself with a weighted descent, but this time I won't sink. This time I will not freeze. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Anthony. So awesome hearing you read from your book. Like you said, since after 2009, us just kind of starting out with poetry.
Yeah, right. Totally. Yeah.
And I hadn't thought about it in a while, but like I was thinking about the actual workshop, and it's the most wild workshop because we were in this big abandoned train station
Yeah,
where we
right.
didn't have separate rooms for the workshops. We all kind of had like one space with dividers, and it was like show up and pick who you want that day.
Yeah, no, it wasn't like one person throughout the whole week. It was like, but
Yeah,
it was a great faculty.
it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks.
Our last reader, taking us home, closing us out tonight, is Alina Stefanescu, who was born in Romania and lives in Birmingham, Alabama, with her partner and several intense mammals. Recent books include a creative nonfiction chapbook Ribbled from Bull City Press and Door, which won the Wandering Angus Press Prize. Her debut fiction collection, Every Mask I Tried On, won the Bright Horse Books Prize. Alina's poems, essays, and fiction can be found in Prairie Schooner, North American Review, World Literature Today, Pleiades, Poetry, Bomb, Crab Creek Review, and others. She serves as poetry editor for several journals, reviewer and critic for others, and co-director of PEN America's Birmingham chapter. She is currently working on a novel-like creature.
Thank you for the introduction. And now I have to take off my glasses because to see you all, I have to wear my glasses, but I think they're bifocals. So when I read, I have to take them off. I don't know if what I said makes sense. I'm going to read completely new things tonight. And if you want to hear about grief or sadness from me, there's a book called Dor, and it's all about that. But I'm going to focus on some really new stuff that I've never even heard aloud. So I'm trying it tonight. This is called About the Author. But before I read it, I also was so impressed by the readers that came before me. And it's wonderful to hear such different voices and to feel just goosebumps every time. So thank you guys so much. About the author. She matriculated from an abundance of failed miracles. 7 hay bales, 3 kegs, and a badly strung banjo officiated her mirage. To the shadow of a fellow she vowed to keep imagining. Her worst fears have learned to talk. She walks them like dogs in the park of not existing, in the city of staying invisible. Rest assured, she prefers to be ripless. So unrest with a scythe forever after. Her resume of kisses is longer than the list of variations in Gould's performance of Bach, and more forgettable. She was, whatever they said, of the limpid mal de siècle, unsuccessful. Not once did she achieve a triumph more definitive than being conceived by humans on a Transylvanian trail for shepherds amid the obscenity of ripening raspberries. This is called, I'm really interested in About the Author poems, partly because I find the About the Author section and bios so humiliating. I'm so incapable of defining or deciding what is worthwhile in mentioning. So this is about the author's author. In a yar steered by Dante, with a heart like a bookshelf, scuffed margins, foxy gloved rock, still learning to dock it, plugged into a socket of linden, coiled towards a shore with Mandelstam steering, homeland head with no harbor, eyes like dead elms, and Gelunom's rudder at midnight. Cenotaph, ghosted by ardor. Liar who keeps layering bad and sad vibes, ships and rubber tires, ponies in the briars, and liar between the fires. Big plinth energy, peak overthinkingness, in a tree and eating a leaf to find a verb for it. It's scary how reading your stuff aloud sometimes sounds really bad to you. So thank you all for being part of that with me. This is called About Shutting Up for a Minute. Were it possible for the abyss to be speechless, I'd still be seduced by the need to find words to speak it. I'd still wait at the edge with my half of the thigh bone, with my hinge of the cymbalum. It takes an object to enact belief, but I wouldn't gloat as you lectured me. I wouldn't sigh feculently as fury hardened your brow, and the two halves discovered in this, speechless. About relinquishment. I'm going to read one more from this Weird About series, and then I'm going to read some from my partner who said, you know, you've written so much, you've never written about celery. And of course, I had to write the celery sagas as a result, but this is about relinquishment. I want to have wild sex with a robot in order to feel all my humanity has been overcome, like a jazz trumpet whose mouth is filled with asphalt. I want to hear what music did to what it's doing. I need to lose my virginity in this particular sense, in this symbolic brass orifice, to relinquish what prevents me from knowing the loneliness of losing one's place in the pantisocracy. My monomania concerns the audience who cannot see what is left off the program. Like the solo, interrupted by a stroke, the show goes on to provide a sense of closure. But I must unzip every zipper I touch to know if you are alive, if anything rises from us, if desire is a way to describe one's relationship to instrumentation. You have no idea how I feel in the presence of our combined juvenilia, how much the entirety of losing gets lost in the flutist's shafts, in strobes, in solicitations. So here's one for P from the celery sagas. I'm watching time with my bad eye. Celery in relation to not being Vivian. The man said the most important thing I could do depended on what the woman before me had not done. He removed the celery from his salad plate and laid it on the paper napkin where it sat, disgusted, faintly touched by an aura of sputum. He folded the napkin over the celery to cover it. Who am I to you? I thought without saying. The man said this houseboat was his. And the most important thing I could do was to wear Vivian's neon pink panties later. I didn't have to be Vivian. In fact, I could not be Vivian because she was curvy while I was a putrid stick. He said he meant that statement in a sex positive way, in that wearing Vivian's panties would allow me to be as sexy as Vivian, even though I was not and could not be Vivian. He did not like girls who looked like they rode horses or walked alone in the woods without shoes. He did not like girls who resembled young boys from the back. He did not like androgyny, volubility, big trees, small breasts, or people who spoke French in their sleep. The man said the most important thing I could do was remember that he owned this houseboat, and he had named the boat after Vivian before he had acquired the pink panties. And really, he could tolerate anything, including the duplicitousness, certain pink hues, as long as I understood the important things and saved those things in my mind like a list and kept them in order as a woman would do for a man in a Leonard Cohen song. You're lucky I'm letting you play the part of a woman at all, the man said, seeing as how you remind me of a tree and a twig and a toothache and celery. So again, this is this attempt to write celery for a partner who said, I don't really think about, we don't think about celery that much. I mean, really, there's not that many poems about celery. So celery on the wall, first variant. Shortly after speaking with the man on the houseboat, I met G at the restaurant, which has a stalk of celery painted on the wall. The celery stands alone, uncoupled, muralless. G orders a drink which can be used to seed a chia pet. She wants my advice on how to proceed with the discovery of her father's phantom movies. A phantom movie is a film that has not been screened, a film that may even have gone missing before it was filmed. The phantom film exists in various stages of development, which is not what G wants to discuss. She found the films in a black plastic box in the garage. The box also contained a bong and a book. The book claimed that the creation of idols marked the beginning of fornication. This only matters if you are one of those people who thinks King Solomon's mistake was being seduced into taking foreign wives. G believes her father's phantom films may include images from her own childhood. She wants to see them before he dies and wills the garage, the house, and the boxes with bongs and phantoms to his third and very foreign wife. At no point in this conversation do I find a way to mention what occurred a few blocks away from the restaurant with celery on its walls. It is unmentionable. It is happening as G speaks, so I cannot mention it yet. But I can acknowledge on paper that 2 people are shot in a drive-by that seems to have been an accident as G and I drink and discuss the past. My most painful, romantic breakup was losing that therapist, G confides. Sorry, I keep looking at time. Because I wanted to also read a non-celery poem. I'm trying to make sure. Okay. Celery in, quote, small bites. The epigraph is from Etel Adnan's Sea and Fog. Love precedes us to the grave and follows us into it. Like Jenny Booley, when first meeting Butch, I mistook my hermeneutics of suspicion for having brilliant thoughts. I too nibbled celery in small bites, at the crossroads between taking responsibility for my errors and seeing a licensed therapist. Having experimented with therapy during the prior year, and having learned that I had, in fact, been emotionally abused and spiritually neglected by my work-driven immigrant parents, I too confused healing with an overdetermined interpretation of life, as construed by Americans raised on sitcoms. I resembled the therapist more than I resembled my dog, Radu. She too had earned her PhD in the hope of helping others survive, if not thrive, amidst the daily accumulations of unfairness administered by the market's invisible hand. And I too believed that drinking carrot juice could extend one's life. But the therapist avoided the verb extend and seemed uncomfortable with the noun life, electing instead to wield a larger treasure and to lift this treasure inside the room and hold it up to the light, which is to say she often referenced longevity, an abstraction which made our conversations greatly resemble a substantial, time-consuming friendship in which one of us paid the other to take their side in invisible battles and run a metal detector through the ocean of childhood for any possible interesting slight and any hidden demonic enemy. This does not explain why Karl Marx hated celery and why, unlike Engels, Marx refused to consider celery as a snack in itself rather than a garniture for a stew or a vegetable casserole. More than anything, and without rhyme or reason, in a manner which can only be described as modus volens, I too chewed the celery at the fork in the road and pretended to maintain a personal relationship. I'm going to read one more that's online. Okay. So this is after a poem that was written by Oliver de la Paz. It's called Autism Screening Questionnaire, Speech and Language Delay. And I love the poem, and so I sort of wrote one, and it's for the person who is turning 19 tomorrow. So it's called Autism Screening Questionnaire, Speech and Language Delay. It borrows the form of using an autism screening questionnaire. Number 1, Did your child lose acquired speech? He has always been polylingual. I mean, he learned the language of puppies, cats, eagles, furred creatures he admired. The march of the penguins, his tears when the daddy penguin dropped the egg. The words moved from his mouth to his fingers, shimmering, twinkling, circling the brown curls of his head. 2. Did your child produce unusual noises or infantile squeals? He laughs with his whole body. It's as if the laugh lives inside him, inseparable from every nerve ending. A full-bodied laugh. He doesn't point to things. Is this the question? What am I answering? He likes quiet. Unusual noises scare him. Football and fireworks scare him a lot. We try to leave town on those weekends. Number 3, is your child louder than required? I think I mentioned it is loud where we live. I never realized how loud lawnmowers and leaf blowers could be, the endless screaming of inhuman machines. Given their surrounding sounds, his voice is very loud. His teachers say disruptive. My friends say shouting. It is loud enough so he can hear himself speak over the noises in his head. My child's voice is as loud as required. He could be a newscaster, really. He presses his invisible volume button when he needs to lower his voice in public spaces. The button is located right above his heart. Sometimes he presses it so intensely that he mutes himself. 4. Does your child speak frequent gibberish or jargon? He loves to sing. He sings songs. He uses his voice to untangle the sounds inside a word from their shell. Did you realize each word has a shell around it? He opens each one carefully with his mouth, and then he repacks it. He puts the soft sounds back into the hard shell. He will do this for hours. Often he uses his fingers and hands to help. 5. Does your child have difficulty understanding basic things? Just can't get it. The toilet is connected to a series of underground pipes that swallow things. He has shown me this with a drawing. He puts toilet paper in the bowl with one hand over his ear, the other ear laying against his shoulder. It is true that the toilet paper disappears. He started kindergarten late as a result. He was only fully potty trained at 6, and he will not use the school restroom. At home, he goes into the backyard, crouches near a tree to use the bathroom. The sparrows choiring overhead. He cries and covers his ears when toilets flush, always. He says animals are his best friend. He trusts dogs and looks deep into their eyes. He does this even after one bites him on the ear and draws blood. I worry so much when people walk their dogs and he runs up to touch them. I worry those people don't understand dogs are his best friend. I worry the dogs will hurt him again. 6, does your child pull you around when he wants something? He takes my hand to show me the ice cream. He stares at the freezer door until I open it. Then he looks directly at the ice cream and waits. The connection between our fingers, which becomes a connected gaze, is actually a blanket. We wrap ourselves in the blanket and eat birthday cake on the couch. Oh no, is that bad? 7, child have difficulty expressing his needs and desires using gestures. He takes my hand. He looks at things and waits. He crumples up on the floor when he is frustrated. After aligning all the ketchup and condiment bottles on the kitchen floor, he dances around them, fingers twinkling. His eyes twinkle when his fingers twinkle in the air. The joy on his face is incredible. He knows what he needs to assemble it. He knows his joy's patterns. The bottles, the trains arranged by color and size along the edge of a rug, his hands dancing, dancing. 8, is there no spontaneous imitation of speech or communication from your child? I don't know what you mean. I know what he means. I know others don't know what he means, as I do not know what you mean by this question. Is this an answer? It feels like we aren't communicating. Number 9, does your child repeat words, parts of words, or TV commercials? He repeats everything, sing-songy. He loves vowels and fricatives. He repeats everything and takes it apart with such tenderness, like a tiny monk Study the matins, the motion of music towards song. He chants a lot. 10, does your child use repetitive language? Same word or phrase over and over. Yes, yes, he's been doing this more and more. I read in a book that repetition is how kids learn new words, so I'm excited and hopeful about his vocabulary. He loves repeating alphabet cards. He does it by himself. He sits in his teddy chair and repeats flashcards for hours. And train words. And outside. He says outside 13 times in a row when he wants to go swing. He sings it. He sings and stares at the window. Does your child have difficulty sustaining a conversation? Not with himself. He has monologues. He meanders into new places with them, twinkling places, but he won't answer questions unless they are related to trains or bottles or whatever is fascinating him at that moment. 12, does your child use monotonous speech or wrong pauses? I don't know. I mean, yes. I mean, he recites what is happening in his mind as if I'm not there. When he is finished, he crawls into my lap and repeats the word mommy. I mean, a word is an island that protects him from all the other words and the mean kids at school. 13, does your child speak the same to kids, adults, or objects, i.e., can't differentiate? Yes, he was born egalitarian. He doesn't see status or authority or prestige or charisma. He loves puppies and penguins. Last week, I had to leave work and get him from school because the principal said he was acting hysterically. In that office, he was so tiny, sitting in a large leather chair, his cheeks reddened, his eyes rimmed by tears. The principal said he disrespected a teacher and refused to apologize. He looked up at me, his lower lip trembling. No, mommy, no, no, no. The teacher said dinosaurs were 2,000 years old. No, 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 mommy. The teacher lied, lied, lied. I took him home. He wouldn't apologize until the teacher took back what she said. The teacher would not take it back. I'm not sure what will happen with school. I can't differentiate between respect, apology, and fact. 14, does your child use language inappropriately, wrong words or phrases? He said, I love you for the first time recently. He said it to a tiger at the zoo. He stared through the bars and said, Tiger, I love you. He was so happy. His fingers danced around his eyes. Thank y'all. I'm going to probably stop there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alina. That was a beautiful poem. I know I'll never look at celery the same way again either. I hope everyone takes like 10 minutes tonight just to write a celery poem and share it with us online. I would absolutely love that. All right, unfortunately, that brings us to the end of the reading. But in a week or so, you can find it online along with all of our other readings. I want to thank all of our readers again, CT, Allie, Anthony, Alina. Please pick up their books, read their work, share their work, support them. They're all incredible poets, and I appreciate them so much for reading tonight. It's a nice little Zoom round of applause. I don't know. I think there's a clap hand emoji or something you can use or shout it out in the chat. I hope everybody will join us again. I think our next reading is going to be on November 10th, another Thursday at 8 p.m. You can follow us on Twitter at David Has Zoom Pro to find out about future readings. Again, thank you to Anthony, Allie, Alina, and CT. Thank you to everybody for tuning in and joining us. I hope everybody has a great night, and I hope to see you again in, I think it's just 3 weeks away. All right.
Thank you, David.
Thanks.